4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome.
Hey everybody, how are you? I am Andy Smith, 34-year veteran of the comic book industry. That's right, I've been drawing comics for that long, since 1991. And today, I thought I'd show you guys how to create your own page template for drawing comics. Now you're like, what's a page template? Don't you just grab a piece of paper and start drawing? No, you don't. I mentioned before in a previous video, if you haven't seen it, you can go back and check it out, that comic books print this size, roughly 7 by 10.5. They're small, you know. I mean, they're not super small, but compared to the size we draw them. Now, this is a printed book. These are 2 books I did. Blade over here. Always like that cover. And then Green Lantern over here, another cover of mine that I really dig. And just to show you the size difference, back in the day, Marvel sent out paper for us to draw on. Now, this is Marvel cover stock. I honestly don't know if they do it anymore because a lot of people work digitally, so they just might send out templates and stuff. I have no idea. But I used to get paper from Marvel to draw on. And in fact, if you went up to the offices, little known fact, if you were visiting up in New York, they had a supply cabinet, you could actually get ink, brushes, pens, stuff like that too. I never did, but a friend of mine that lived closer used to actually do that, and he'd get paper. So you can see this is what the paper is, the size we draw on, and this is the printed comic book size. So you can see the difference in size. It's basically 1.5 times up. So that's Marvel. That's Marvel cover stock. Yes, I held on to a few sheets just for, I don't know, memorabilia purposes. I don't know. DC cover stock is different. Now you can see on the DC stuff, it's printed in light blue, which is non-repro blue. So when back in the day, they used to photostat, take a picture, in other words, of the pages. Now they scan them and the blue wouldn't show up. Same thing. You throw the comic on it and you can see the size difference right there, you know. So drawn a lot bigger, and then, you know, Marvel cover stock, DC cover stock, and you're like, well, why is Marvel printed in black? Well, the reason is every page, well, back then, all the covers bled off the page. And what I mean by that is, pick up my example again. See how the color goes all the way to the edge? That's called bleeding off the page. So if a cover bleeds, that means there's a crop about 1/4 of an inch in all the way around that's cut. So it doesn't matter if it has this black line here. Non-bleed artwork on the interiors, which we'll get to. So let me wait. So that's the cover stock. Now, when I started working at Marvel, let me backtrack some, because I started at DC first. When I started working at DC, they had a different interior stock. It even says for interiors. And you can see it's marked up, and I'll go through what all these markings mean. So you've got the outer edge, which is the bleed. And I'll go over this. I'm going to share my screen in Photoshop so you can see it closer. And you've got these other markings. Like I said, I'll go over them. So this is an interior page of DC paper. And once it's drawn on, it looks like, here's a piece of original art. This is from an issue of Hawkman that I did. And you can see at the top, this is back when we used to mail artwork to the offices, so it wouldn't get confused. I have a stamp that says pencils by Andy Smith, and I did pencils and inks on this, but it's just so when they're doing art returns, there's no mistaking who did it. I still wrote my name, and then you can see issue number, title of the book, and everything. So that's DC. And then Marvel, when I started, the books did not bleed. And what I mean by that is, no, this is not a Marvel comic I'm going to show you guys. It's a DC comic, but same thing. So back when I started drawing comics for a living, you can see these pages right here. See how there's that white border around the pages? These are non-bleed. That means the artwork does not go all the way to the edge like on the cover. And when I started working for Marvel back in the day, none of their books bled. So there was always that border. So the paper they would send you to work on originally looked like this, really basic. At the top, you would write down the title of the book, the issue number, and the page number. Those three boxes on the top right as you're looking at the screen were for office use, and you just drew right to the edge. And if you're looking at these marks right here, these are gutter marks. So the gutters were usually a 1/4 inch wide. They would do one right in the center across the top, and then they would also divide it into thirds. And then this is weird because you can cut it's yeah. So on the, I'll just turn it this way so you can see it. On the vertical side, they would do the same thing. They would cut it in half, and then they will cut it into thirds, because if you look at a lot of older Marvel comics, it was all based on grids. So you could easily rule out a 6-panel grid where it's 2 panels, 2 panels, 2 panels, or you could rule out a 4-panel grid where the page is cut evenly in quarters. So they just kind of gave you those marks. After a while, Marvel, this is still before they went to full bleed, they started giving out paper like this, which actually had their logo on it and stuff. All the marks are the same, and you draw right to the edge. So there you go. In fact, I just flipped this over. This is when I was teaching at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, sequential art. I must have taken this to show them, and I was doing a little kind of demonstration on the back of just showing depth and windows and picture frames and stuff like that. Anyhow, that's a different story. And then Marvel finally went to, and I'm looking at this one. This was going to be really hard to see. They started sending paper that, and here's a piece of original art from an X-Men book I did. And this paper has, it's really hard to see the light blue. I'll be sharing my screen soon, but it actually has crop marks and everything, because this top panel, for instance, when the book was printed, bled all the way off the page, whereas the second panel had a white border around it and stuff. So you could get more designy when you were laying out your pages. And I also worked for a company called CrossGen, and CrossGen, we also made our own paper, printed on Bristol. I mean, if you've got the money, you can call up a place like Strathmore. Strathmore is the best Bristol board out there, and have them print batches of your paper. And it's blue lined and everything. We probably use Marvel paper as a template. So there's that. And then just to show you, here's a cover I did for them. And we use the cover, the same stock for the cover. There was no reason to use a different cover stock. So, and at this point, I think DC and Marvel use the same cover stock as well. So there's your examples. What I want to show today is how you can make your own paper, because now when I do my own books for Astonishing Comics, my company, I use my own paper. Now, like I was saying, this is, let's see, this is Marvel paper, current. They don't have the Marvel, at least what I got, they don't have the Marvel logo anymore. But you can see at the top, and you don't have to have all this stuff if you create your own paper. You can see at the top, it says book, issue number, page number, penciler, inker, and then, you know, illustration quality paper. And it tells you keep all lettering inside most inner broken line box. All bleed art extends to the outermost rectangle. So going through this, if you draw all the way to this outer edge right here, That is the bleed if you want to go off the paper. See this vertical line right here? That is the trim. So anything in this little area, I'll kind of outline it right here, where you can see the little dotted lines, will not print. It's only 1/4 of an inch. Don't draw anything important there because it will not print. Now, the weird thing about this paper is, let me see if it's at the bottom. So they do have, this is weird, they do have the trim mark at the bottom and let's see, the top. They just didn't design a solid line in, but you can see right here it says trim. So same thing. I'll just draw this all the way across so you can see it. That area right there is the trim for the top, and there's the same at the bottom. Don't draw anything important there. They, again, show the division marks. Standard gutters are 1/4 of an inch apart. The gutter is the white space between the panels, and they divide the page in half and then into thirds. So they do that for you again on the tops and sides. They're just indications. You don't have to use them unless you want to. Now, you see this box right here? This inner box that's dotted? You're like, well, what the heck is that all about? That is what they call the safe area for the lettering. So the dialogue balloons, speech bubbles, whatever you want to call them, they want all those to fit inside this box, because when the book is eventually cropped and printed, they know that even if the printer really messes up what they're cutting and cuts in too far on the sides, top, or bottom, that's the safe area. There's no way they're going to cut in that tight. So all the lettering is supposed to be inside that box. Little industry secret now. I've never in my years of drawing comics seen the printer cut the paper so tight that it's even close to this box. So when I do lettering, I'll go outside of it some. So that's the box they suggest. Honestly, I'll probably go about that far so you can see the difference when I zoom in, what I'm talking about. But if you're just beginning, I would use that box. So anyhow, this is Marvel paper, and you're saying, well, why do I need to create my own if I can just, full disclosure, I found this online. This isn't even from one I scanned. This is one I found online. So you're like, well, why can't I just use this? And then if I have an 11x17 printer, print it out onto Bristol. Well, I mean, you can. However, these corners need to be perfectly horizontal and vertical, straight up and down 90-degree corners. This might look like it is, but if it's off by a little bit, it can screw things up when you scan. So that's why I make my own. And like I said, I'll show you how I do it. So here is original Marvel paper. Ignore the Silver Surfer stamp at the top. Back in the old days, when you sent pages in, they had stamps for all their books titles, and they would just stamp it at the top. Now with everything being digital, they don't need to do that. Here's DC paper, so you can see it maybe a little better from what I showed. It says DC Vertigo, penciler, inker, page number, title, issue number, month. The book comes out. I never filled that in. That's for the editor to worry about. Once again, Marvel cover stock. This is all from stuff I scanned in. And then Image, which I thought I still had, but I don't. When I worked for Image, same thing. They sent out their own paper. Their paper was really good. You can see it's the same thing. They've got all the same markings, basically. You can see at the top going across, they don't have any divisions up there of center and then thirds, but they have it on the sides. Guess they got a little lazy. They've got the vertical trim marks dotted in, but not the horizontals. A little lazy, but they do have their logo and all that stuff. And then this, I thought I would show. This is actually DC Silver Age cover stock. So this goes back to the Silver Age, which was in the started around 1970 and ran up until 80, 81. So this is Silver Age cover stock. I just thought I'd show it just because it's retro and it's cool. It's got the Comics Code Authority. It's got the little Superman bullet where they would place it on it, and then the title. Whenever you're drawing a cover, you can pretty much assume that this space you cannot draw in because that's the logo. So you've got all this space below it to draw in. So keep in mind the top quarter third is not yours because of logos and stuff. Okay, let's get to creating the actual cover stock. Now I use or not cover stock but paper. So I like Marvel paper. All the divisions are already there. It's great. So to keep it, to make sure everything is on the straight and narrow, what I'll do is, this is Photoshop. If you go all the way over to the left and just drag over, you're creating guides. So I will actually, let me take it back. I'm going to create it from scratch, right? Because once again, this could be off. And if it's off by a little bit, you're in trouble. Okay. So I found online, there's a printer that a lot of people use called Kablam. Kablam can print anywhere from one comic book up to thousands. If you're just printing one, it's going to cost you a lot of money. But if the more you print, the less it is. This is their page template they send out. Okay. So they show standard size template, 7 inches by 10.5. That is the size of the comics when they print them. Depending on the printer you use, there might be a little variation. For instance, the printer I use is full page before the bleed, so that's all the way to the edge, is actually 6.875 by 10.5. So it's the same height, not quite as wide. I don't know why. That's just what they do. This is fine for our purposes, so we'll use this. So what I do is I create a new layer on top because that's where I'm going to do all my lines. I'm using this as a guide. I'll take this layer and lower the opacity of it. And then I want to bring across a guide right to the edge of each side. And you're like, but they're already there. I know they're perfectly square. I know that too, but trust me, edge, like that. Okay, now they have their trim line. Now I could bring a guide over right to that dotted line, but how do I know that that's exactly a quarter of an inch, right? They say their trim is 6.75 by 10.25. So actually their trim is an eighth of an inch all around. So you can, let's see if I remember how to do this. I'm doing all this on the fly. Guides, lock clear, new guide. So new guide comes up, vertical position, and I'm doing it with cyan, light blue. So the vertical position would be, let's see, let's go 6.75. Okay. Oops, that is not what I meant to do because that is a quarter of an inch. Remember, this is print size, so it's smaller. So let me undo that. I'm sorry. I meant to do, boy, my fractions have always been a little off. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just drag it over. Like that. It's right on their dotted line. drag this one over like that, because I can adjust them afterwards. Pull this one down to that dotted line. Oops, didn't do it. It's snapped. They'll snap sometimes to the one above it. There we go. Bring this one down to this one. The bottom. You can see their safe area is bigger, kind of like I showed you for the lettering. All right, and then when you turn off that lower layer, let's fill this with white so you can see those. Edit, fill. Now you can see these guides. Okay, now I want to see what the measurement is of that one. View, guide, edit selected guides. It's 0.131. It should be, for 1/8 of an inch, to 5. Let's see if I'm correct. Yes, that is now 1/8 of an inch. Come over to this one. View, guide, edit, select the guide. So it should be 6.8775. Let's see. Kids, pay attention to math class. That's all I gotta say. There. That's 1/8 of an inch. Oops. I don't know why that came up. So select. View, guide, edit, select a guide. Look at that. Nailed it. 0.125. That is perfect. Now the bottom one, select. View, guide. Oh, I gotta select it first. View, guide, edit. 0.3875. That's the horizontal. And that should be, look at the corner. That is on. Okay. So good. So now we have these guides. Okay. But if I were to save this and print it out, you just get a white sheet of paper. So now that we have these guides, what I can do is I can take my marquee tool, that's the box up there, and on the corner right there, pull it down and it'll snap it right to these guides. So then I'll do a stroke. I believe a stroke of 3 pixels is good enough. You don't want it to be black. You want it to be like a light blue. Now, guys, you can go in and you can Google, what's a non-photo blue? Okay, it's just a light blue. You want it to be a light blue so when you scan it into Photoshop, it doesn't show up. That's all. So I just basically pull up here, get this light blue. Looks good to my eye. Like I said, if you want to Google CMYK colors for non-photo blue, you can, and it'll pull up the C, M, Y, and K numbers, and you just fill them in the bottom right-hand side of this panel of the color picker. If I do that, now you can see color there. I do the stroke centered, so it literally is the center of this line. It's not inside or outside of it. Hit OK. And then if I were to hide these guides, which they call extras under view, you can now see when I zoom in this light blue right here. I'll get real tight for you. See that light blue? There you go. So we've got that taken care of. You know what I'm going to do so you guys can see it? Oops. Let me redo the stroke. View. Extras. Okay. I'm going to do them all black just so you guys can see them. But then I'll show you how easy it is to change them all to this blue. So let's do this again. And then I'll take my marquee tool and do it for the crop right up here and drag it so it hits all the corner of the crop. Same thing, edit, stroke, 3 pixels center, boom. And then for the very outside, I'll hit select all and then edit, stroke. This time I'll do the inside because if I do center, you're not going to get the full width of the 3 pixels. And I'll go okay. And then I want to have some type of border around it. So image size, oops, not image size, sorry. Canvas size. I'm going to make the canvas size just a little bit wider, so 7.5. Actually, I'm going to do 7.75, so it's 7 and yeah. And then I'm going to make the height 11 inches tall. Hit OK. Fill that whole thing white. And then when I get rid of the extras, you can see the page template for drawing. Now there's no divisions, dividing it in half, and you don't have any of the book stuff. But I like all that stuff. I'm a dork. I'm a huge fanboy. I love paper that says book and all that. So honestly, what I do is, since, let me see Marvels again. Nope, that's the original one. Let me just close that. That's a written one. DC. Actually, I think it's DC's that I like. Yeah, I like the way DC does it. So what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste this. Not the interiors part because I use the same stock for covers. So I'll select all that with my rectangle marquee that says penciler, inker, page, title, issue, month, and I'll copy it. And then I'll go over to my page template I'm creating and I'll paste it. And you can see it's rather small, right? So I'll just transform it because this doesn't matter if it's 100% square. Free transform. I don't care if it takes up the whole width. I'll drag it up to here like that. Pull it over because I do want to line up a little bit like that to the edge. And then my page template, as you can see, I need to move it down because there doesn't need to be as much space at the bottom. And you can see my title block stuff I pasted in is overlapping it. So I'll just select it all on that layer, move it down like that. And you can see behind it, that's what that is. So once again, I'll just fill it. Oops. And now I've got the page set up, right? I don't know why that black just happened. It's still there for some reason. I don't know what is going on. That's weird. Huh. That is very strange. Okay, anyhow, doesn't matter. Now, like I said, I like having a logo up there. Well, for me, I'll go over because I have it. I'll open up Andy's work, Astonishing Comics logo. I should have a black and white one in here. Astonishing. All right. It might be this one. Let's just see. Astonishing logo. Ah, it's in full color. That's fine. You know. So what I do is, because I don't need all this color, select. Now this is stuff you really don't need to worry about because you'll have your own imprint if you have one. But since it's mine and I don't want any of the color, I'm selecting all the black. I copy it, go back over, paste it. That is way too big, so I transform and scale it down to where it will fit right up here. And as long as it's not overlapping any of the black line, I just bring it over, line it up. Boom. Now you've got Astonishing Comics. I honestly don't know what is going on, why it's doing that. That is so weird. I don't know why when I'm zooming in, let me see something here. I don't know why this black is coming up like that when I'm zooming in. That is very strange. But anyhow, you can see there's the Astonishing Comics logo up there. Okay. And then you've got penciler, inker, page, title, issue, month. But this is still not blue. My God, how do I get it to blue? Well, I want everything to be the same tone of blue. So I'll go to image, mode. Right now it's in full color mode. It needs to go to grayscale. I'm not going to merge the layers. Okay, so now it's grayscale. And now I'm going to go image, mode, duotone. And I have it labeled as light blue. You can see the blue right there. This is what I consider non-photo blue. Boom, right there. Let's see if I blow up on it again. Oh, now it's not doing it. That's odd. Okay, so blow up on it. You can see this pencil title stuff is a little lighter than I like. So this is the fun of Photoshop. I can just go in and adjust it. Image, adjust levels, and just drag across to darken that up. So it's all about the same. And now you can see it. Boom. Okay. There you go. And look at that. Astonishing Comics, penciler, inker, page number, title of the book, issue number, month, all that. You know, if you think it's a little too tight at the top because your handwriting's large, I can just move that down. Like that. And then there you go. That is your blue line paper to draw on. Like I said, I don't do the gutters indications halfway and all that stuff like they do, because, you know, it just, there's no point. I don't usually do grids and stuff when I draw. You know, if you want to, you can do that. So that's it. That's the blue line paper to draw on. Now you're like, well, how do I print it out? Well, I have an oversized printer. So I would go to File, Print, and this window comes up. Under Print Settings, I click that, and I like to draw an 11 by 17, so I have to do User Defined, 11 inches wide. Down here, I type in a 7. So now it's 11 by 17 inch paper. I hit OK, hit OK. I'm printing on heavy paper, so this has to be Epson matte, which is basically the thickness of a Bristol board, which automatically puts the quality at quality. I can also do high quality, but for blue line, quality is fine. Obviously, you want to print in color, so it prints the blue. Hit OK. It needs to be portrait, not landscape. And now right here, what you're seeing is this is printing at 100%. Well, I want to fill the paper up like the examples I showed you holding up earlier. So I scale to fit media, and then it will now almost fill the 11 by 17. But you really want to fill the 11 by 17, right? So let's cancel that. And I'm actually going to crop in on the sides here, because you don't need a lot of space on the sides. So now File, Print. And I haven't done this in a while, so I actually have all this already set up, ready to go. So scale to fit media. And now look how much that yellow takes up in that paper. This is going to print. So when it prints out for you, it's going to look just like the Bristol board paper I held up at the beginning of this. And then I would click print. I don't have paper in my printer right now, so I'm not going to do it. And it would print it out. I'm just going to cancel it for now. So that is setting up a piece of or your comic book page template. Now, what I'm going to do for you guys, I'm going to turn this logo off. So now there's no logo up here, and I'll zoom in so you can see it. No logo, but it's still got pencil and all that. I'm going to save this file, save as, and I'm actually, wait, let me merge this down, flatten it so it's all in one layer, flatten image, discard hidden layers. I'm going to save it as, and I have a folder called Comic Paper Layouts. I'm going to save it as a TIFF. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save it as a Photoshop file, because you can open those in Procreate. So if you want to take this template and put it into Procreate on your iPad, or even into Clip Studio or Photoshop, you can. I'm going to save it as Comic Book Page Template Single Page. And I'm going to share a link to this in the description of this video. So if you don't want to go through all this trouble I just did, but you want your own page template, you can download this. You can insert your own logo up here at the top. Just get your logo, copy it, paste it, and pop it right in here and scale it down so it fits. And then you'll have your own paper template. And I'm going to also share the Marvel and DC paper templates I did as well. So if you want to, you can print those out and draw on those. But one more thing, you're like, but what if I'm doing a 2-page spread? Well, if you're drawing a 2-page spread, I'm going to do a paper template for the 2-page spread. So what I'm going to do is edit, or image, canvas size, click. So the canvas expands all the way to the right. I'm going to double the width to just 14 is fine. Hit OK. You can see it doubled. I'm going to copy or duplicate this layer. Dupe the layer. OK. And then I'm going to drag over that new layer. And I'm going to put it on multiply so you can see through it, because that's important. Now, when you do a two-page spread, it's not just dragging this over and butting it up like this, where now, let me show you, you can see how it's butted right up next to it. Because two-page spread, they don't crop the center. So you want to overlap and you want the bleeds to touch like that. Okay. And then these little extra lines right here are kind of confusing, and you don't need them. You only need this center line. So, because there is no bleed anymore. So I'm just going to delete. This should work if I have the layer, the right layer. Gone. And then down below, I'm going to take out this vertical as well. Like that. Now, I can flatten this. And you've got a two-page spread template. You can get rid of this other side. It doesn't really matter. I flattened it. I just keep it. Who cares? Once again, you can insert your own logo. This is now a two-page spread, so I'll save this as file. Save as, and I'll call it a double page spread. And I'll share this, a link to this too, so you can just download it. Now, here's the thing. My printer's not big enough to print something this big. I can print basically 11 by 17 paper, a little bit bigger. So what you would have to do is you'd have to print half of this one to 11 by 17, the other side one to 11 by 17, and then with a paper cutter or an X-Acto knife and a ruler, cut down this center. You know, use this center line as a guide, and on both pages, cut it right there, place them together, and then on the back, tape it together with just, you know, clear Scotch tape. That's how we do two-page spreads. So unless you're working digitally, then you're fine. Once again, when you're drawing a two-page spread, never, ever, ever put anything important in the center of the spread. Even if it's a stapled comic book that'll lay flat, you might go, well, who cares if something's important because it'll lay flat? You'll be able to see it. But keep in mind down the road, if it's collected, if it's a trade paperback with a square binding, perfect bound, you won't be able to lay it flat. So never draw anything important. In fact, use these bounding boxes here where the safe lettering is, and anything important should stop right at those boxes and you're good to go. So keep that in mind. So that's two-page spread. There you have it. I am going to do a separate video on printing, or not printing, on scanning. So taking your original art, scanning it in, what settings I use, the scanner that I use, and all that. Now I use an Epson, just so you guys know, 7510 Workforce. It's an oversized scanner printer all-in-one. That means it can print 11 by 17 paper and it can scan 11 by 17 paper. I've had this thing for probably a decade now. It works great. When I do that video, I'll actually show a screenshot of it. And then when I do my scanning, it'll be just like this. You'll see screenshots and all that stuff. So there you go, guys. I hope this tutorial, while it was a little long and there were some back and forths I made of correcting myself along the way, I think it's important to keep those in the video to basically show you that even though I've been doing this for 34 years, doing digital stuff like this, probably for 25 now, I still go through and make mistakes along the way that I have to adjust and fix. And that's just part of the process. A lot of people think that us pros don't make mistakes. And when I see videos and you can see that there's a specific edit in it, like a jump cut, it's because the creator made a mistake and they didn't want it shown, so they took it out. There's nothing wrong with that, but I like people to see that I'm not perfect and I make mistakes, and you don't fret over it. You don't tear your hair out. That is not how I lost my hair, through tearing it out. It's because my grandpa was bald at 19. No, people make mistakes. You just roll with it, go on. Maybe I'll do a video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see a video on using Photoshop. I am by no means a Photoshop expert, and everything I know in Photoshop, I've been self-taught, whether it's reading a book or YouTube videos. But I could do a simple coloring tutorial if you guys want. Not a whole page, but just like maybe a single figure or part of a figure. All the steps are the same as a full page. So let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like it, subscribe to my channel for more stuff like this. 34-year pro of the comic book industry who has written books as well. Drawing Dynamic Comics is the book I wrote. I'll pop a link for that and a link to my store on my website where there's other books that I've done on drawing as well that you guys can check out. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope you found this valuable. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye, everybody.